What's your lemonade stand story?
He was like, YouTube's going to be the next big thing, Devin. Like, you need to get on that. You need to get on it early. And I'm like,
And all of us, we all go through our own trials, our own level of stuff.
Sure hope this works out. Otherwise, this will be a huge waste of time.
I mean, what else is it all about other than just taking risks and continuing to try and grow and hopefully get better and better at making things?
Most of the billion-dollar brands you've seen were started by people that were just solving a problem for themselves.
We're telling lemonade stand stories from some of the world's top creators, makers, and go-getters.
We're rolling right now.
Hey,
We're having fun. We're rolling.
Yeah.
Hey guys, this podcast today is sponsored by Yalla, a task management and team collaboration software that we use at Lemonade Stand. We use Yalla to keep all of our team members organized, wherever they are. In fact, we used it to plan and organize this podcast. Visit yalla.team, that's YALLA.team, and try it for free. We also have a special offer for all listeners of this podcast. Use promo code LEMONADE and get a lifetime 25% off if you upgrade. Hey guys, welcome back to the Lemonade Stand Stories podcast. I am your host, Chen Prabhakar, and I'm just so delighted. I really am. I say that a lot, but I really am delighted today because in front of me is the lovely Madilyn Paige. And man, it's interesting because friendships born under extreme circumstances, I've heard, can either crash and burn, which literally in a weird way, there was crashing and there was burning involved in when we first met. But or like that crashing and burning feeling can like also bind people together, just like really like make them not that they're welded together or anything like that, but they just really get bound together because of this traumatic experience that they went through. Such was the case with Madilyn and myself. I had the privilege to be in a music video that Madilyn starred in. She sang "Come On to Jesus." It was her arrangement. And so she sang this, him and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints produced this music video. And in the music video, there was this lovely, beautiful girl, Madilyn, who was singing about just Jesus, but she was also a waitress, and she accidentally spills some beverage onto a gentleman who is furious, just absolutely furious. And so he lets her know very, very vocally. And the next thing you know, he gets struck in an accident and the car's on fire, and he happens to be underneath the car, and Madilyn finds him and saves him. I'm going to go ahead and pause for a second while you wipe away your tears. I'm done now. Anyway, the point is Madilyn and I had that beautiful experience of doing that video together. I was yelling at her and I felt horrible. But anyway, that's how we met. So Madilyn, welcome.
Thank you.
How you doing?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing good.
Of course. Let's talk about that day though, shall we? Because that was such a fun day for me anyway. But was that your first time doing like a music video for the church?
I think it was. I think it right. I've done a lot of stuff with the church, but as far as like an actual music video.
Yeah. Because there was acting involved. There was acting involved.
That was the most acting I'd ever done before.
Are you serious?
Oh yeah.
How was it? Did you like it?
Oh yeah. I loved it. I loved it. It was really cool. It was a very good learning experience for me because I had to remember, I'm so used to being Madilyn Paige. Like that is my brand. As a singer, it's like all about your brand and like
sure.
I'm just so used to Madilyn Paige. That's who I am. But in this case, I had to like step out of that and put myself in the shoes of like this waitress girl that I was supposed to be playing. I wasn't Madilyn Paige anymore. I was like a waitress.
Right.
So it was like the first time ever doing that.
Yeah. And the thing was, I remember they made you run a lot for that shoot, like run over and over to like this car.
I got good exercise.
You really did. Meanwhile, I was sitting in the back just enjoying life, eating food.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that.
And I'm like, hey, Madilyn, you're doing great. You really are doing great. But how was that second day? Because the second day, you know, like it was all about like physical action and like like pulling me out of the car or out underneath the ground or whatever, you know. So how was that for you?
It was a blast.
Yeah,
it was just a blast. I mean, working with you was a blast, and I mean, I'm sure you feel the same way. Everybody there, like everybody else that was in like the cast and the crew, was so nice, so fun to work with. Yeah, we had to do a reshoot on another day.
We did.
And I was so happy about it because I got to see everybody again. Yeah. And basically relive that day over
that whole
again.
Experience.
So yeah, it
was such a fun shoot too. Like those were one of those shoots where you're like, this is awesome. I love doing this job. You know?
Oh yeah.
And
absolutely.
And it was so cool because I felt like the experience of it was awesome, but the video itself impacted a lot of people in a really positive way. So I loved that aspect and like the fact that, you know, that song, that arrangement was so powerful. Mm-hmm. So interestingly enough, that was the first time I had ever heard of you. It was because of like this music video I got cast in. And so they said, hey, this is Madilyn Paige and this is what she's done. And so I went on your YouTube channel and I started like listening, and my ears felt like they had become celestialized. My ears felt like I had just that they were translated or something, because I was listening to the most beautiful music ever. And I could not believe that you could sing that well. And I got intimidated. I'm like, oh my gosh, can I sing? I can't. So I was like, this is incredible. So how did you get into singing? Because then you were also on The Voice and all that stuff as well. So we'll talk about all that. But how did you first get into music to begin with?
Well, first off, you're so sweet. Thank you.
Come on.
Yeah, getting into music. I mean, I've sung ever since I was a little girl. And the first time my parents heard me sing, I was singing a song from The Little Mermaid, and I was downstairs in our basement, and my mom thought I was like a recording or something.
Really?
Yeah. So that was the first time, because I had sung since I was little, but that was the first time that they like noticed it.
So how old were you when this happened?
I was probably around 10 or 11.
Okay. Wow. Awesome.
Yeah. So when they really, when it caught their attention.
Yeah.
And then when I was 11, I had my first performance. It was in a talent show at my church, and it was a competition. I ended up winning it. It was super fun. Yeah. It was Ward Idol.
Ward Idol.
Yeah. That's what it was called, Ward Idol.
Jeez, who were the judges on that one?
I think it was like my bishop at the time.
I knew it. Yeah. They're the harshest judges.
Yeah.
They judge Israel.
They were, they cracked down. They were like the Simon, Randy, and Paula.
Yeah, absolutely.
They really were. Yeah.
That's amazing.
It was really fun though. So that was like my first.
That's awesome.
You know, performance for people outside my family, and everybody then knew I could sing that knew me personally.
Was it nervous? Was it nerve-wracking to be in front of like all those people and sing in public like that?
It was. And I remember being nervous, but I feel like it just felt like natural. Okay. I ended up struggling with stage fright a little bit later on. Okay. But in the beginning, I don't know, it just felt easy to me. Like it wasn't this super nerve-wracking thing in the beginning. Yeah. That was more when I became a teenager and I went through an awkward phase.
Yeah, I'm still going through that phase.
Aren't we all?
We really are. We really are. No, it's great because I think when you find something like that feels easy to you and feel natural to you, that makes you come alive. Mm-hmm. It's like you want to hold on to that thing. Oh, yeah. You know, and you want to keep going for it. So did you know, even at that young age, you're like, this is going to be my life. Like, this is what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
You just knew.
I just knew it. I remember very vividly a moment when I was singing and I was practicing for this Ward Idol, for this very first like performance that I ever had. And I was singing in my kitchen and my whole family was in there, all my siblings. And I remember that like my sisters, they, you know, I sing all the time and it drives them nuts. And so my sisters are those people that are always telling me to to stop singing.
Yeah.
But I remember that moment, like they were kind of looking at me with wide eyes and they were like, whoa, like I didn't know you could sing like that.
Really?
And for some reason, I always remember that moment. It always sticks out in my mind because that was the moment that I was like, I didn't know I could sing like this either. Like it was like a realization moment. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm going to do this.
How old were you when this happened?
I was 11.
You were 11?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That's great. Because I mean, you know, not that we're comparing apples to oranges here, but I was also asked to sing a solo in front of my school and the auditorium. And
That's intimidating.
It's intimidating, right? Yes. And I was 9 years old and I sang Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Yeah.
Classic.
And I also got similar comments like, I didn't know you could sing like that, but it wasn't good. Like it was like, I didn't know you sing like that, right? Type of thing. Oh,
I see.
So I quit. And I felt like it was the right move. And I felt so alive when I said, yeah, this is not going to be a part of my life.
Right.
But for you though, like this is amazing that you're like, yeah, I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to keep moving forward. It's going to be amazing. So how did this transition to you going on to The Voice? Was that your first thing or was American Idol your first thing?
The Voice.
The Voice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You know, yeah, it's quite a journey. I basically, long story short, I went into middle school, went into high school, and it was really when I hit 9th grade, my freshman year, that I had a hard time making friends at school, and I just felt really lonely at that point in my life and really insecure. And I started comparing myself to everybody else, and I just was not happy with myself, and I didn't love myself at that time. So I stopped wanting to perform. And up to that point, I had been doing more local competitions. That was kind of a thing that I started doing. And so I stopped doing that. I just kind of put that on pause and was hiding my talent because these insecurities were just taking over. I cared so much what other people thought of me. And I was terrified now all of a sudden of going on stage. And this also turned into social anxiety. And I had a hard time even leaving my house, and I overthought everything I did. And it was like very extreme during this time.
Was there any sort of triggers or anything that happened before that kind of led you to start feeling this way, to start feeling like you were so worried about what other people thought? Because I remember going through that. You know, I think a lot of us go through it, but was there anything specific that happened, or was it just kind of one of those things growing up that just naturally happened?
I think it was like a culmination of things. It wasn't like one specific event that started it. I had a hard time making friends at school because I took some online classes and I wasn't there as much. And I used to be a lot more shy too.
Sure.
I don't know how that changed so drastically. I literally not meet people, but I see people. I'll run into them now that I went to high school with, and they'll tell me I'm literally like a different person than I was in high school because I was so quiet. Yeah. So I don't know how that changed so drastically. I literally feel like I was a different person.
Sure. And
so I think it was that also added to it. And then I have some childhood friends that I'm still friends with to this day. I've literally been friends with them since I was like 4.
Wow.
And they lived in my neighborhood, and I grew up hanging out with them. But for some reason during that time too, I fell apart from them. Like we kind of grew apart during that time. Yeah. And then later we came back together. But it just felt like everybody, it was like a discovery phase for everybody in my life at that time. So it was like, I just felt really alone.
Yeah.
And I think it was the loneliness that started the negative thoughts and comparison and I felt invisible too. I just felt very invisible.
You know, it's interesting. I remember feeling like that. I think for me, 8th grade was that for me. And, you know, we talked about this. You and I went to the same high school. And when I first started going to our high school, I remember, feeling very, very shy and insecure. I was very small, and I didn't know anyone in the school. It was a brand new school. Like I didn't go to junior high with anyone. I went to a different junior high than everyone else did. So when I got there, I really felt like I was in the sea of students and felt like I had no idea where my place was or what my voice even was. And it's very intimidating when you're in a situation like that.
Very.
You know, and you're like, and I also felt invisible. I was very shy. At the time, I hadn't even considered really acting yet. I decided to take a drama class to see what that would even be like. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it was very intimidating. And I'm assuming, like, did you take like a cappella or anything like that? Like,
yeah,
I think
I was in choir.
So like, I think Mr. Larson, I believe, was like that teacher,
yes,
right?
and he was the best.
Yeah.
I miss him so much.
Yeah.
Choir was my favorite. I loved choir.
You loved it.
And I loved him specifically. He was so supportive of me.
So supportive, right?
Yes.
So how did you like find your voice again when you're feeling so invisible and so quiet and shy and insecure?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think it was honestly just like discovering my purpose. Mm-hmm. Ultimately is what took, plucked me out of that place. That mindset.
Yeah.
And so when I was like newly 16,
okay.
And The Voice reached out. It was my sophomore year, or no, it was my sophomore year that I did a local competition. Mm-hmm. Need to, go all around the whole story.
Give me the backstory.
The whole backstory.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, I did a local competition. Like I was saying earlier, would do those, and they posted the video of my performance on YouTube, and then a producer on The Voice saw that video.
Wow.
And that's how they discovered me. So it was my sophomore year that I did that competition. And then my junior year was when everything went down. So I received a phone call from The Voice, and they wanted me to audition because they had seen the performance.
That's amazing.
And it was crazy and surreal. And I mean, it's like, how do you even react to that kind of opportunity? It's so huge. And just because especially I was so young and I was in that place where I was so insecure. So the thought of doing that, it felt impossible. It literally felt impossible. And I just, there was a lot of prayer and a lot of thought that went into the decision, and a lot of talking to my parents.
Sure.
And they just have always been very encouraging. And so I ultimately decided to do it. I was very close to saying no, but I'm so glad that I didn't, because it would have changed everything.
It would have changed everything.
Literally everything. So yeah, I ended up going and I auditioned, even though I was terrified. I just had to take a leap of faith. Yeah. I had to push myself outside of my comfort zone. Mm-hmm. There was no trick to it. I just had to do it. That was it. People always ask me, they're like, how do you get to that point? Like where you can actually do it and go on a show like that? It's like, you just do it.
Just one step at a time.
Stop thinking.
Yeah.
Like just stop thinking and just do it. If you feel good about it and you feel peace about it and you know you are supposed to do it, then do it. And
just do it.
Don't psych yourself out. Don't question yourself. Believe in yourself. Mindset is everything. So and I went into that journey. It was like my whole junior year was The Voice, basically. And it was an incredible experience. It was terrifying and insane. And I met amazing people, and I learned so many things that I still take those lessons to this day and use them. Amazing. So it was amazing.
Wow.
So that's how I got from there to there.
To there, yeah. Well, it's interesting. And I love what you were saying about like, stop thinking about it. Just go and do it. Right?
Yep.
And I think that's a beautiful lesson that can be applied in all things, really. Mm-hmm. And the moment that you kind of get out of your head and just start believing that, hey, you know what? I've got something in me, and it needs to just go. It needs to shine.
Totally.
And you take that leap of faith and you go for it. No matter what happens, no matter what outcome really happens, within you, something magnificent has happened.
Right.
You know, you've gained courage. Your comfort zone has expanded. Your soul has expanded.
Absolutely.
And that right there is the reward.
Yes.
Right. No matter what results happen from an actual show, the fact that your soul expanded is an incredible result.
Right.
So would you say that your junior year, after the Voice experience, your courage kind of came to you?
Oh yeah. it wasn't perfect. And that's what I always tell people. I'm like, The Voice, going on The Voice did not magically solve my stage fright. It did a lot, and it took me so far out of my comfort zone that there was just no going back. It was like only up from there. So it put me on the path to continuing to gain confidence. I was now on the right path. I was not focused on the unimportant, high school things like being popular. I was now focused on my purpose, and I'm doing music, and this is like what I'm meant to do. And I started to love myself more and to just feel a lot of gratitude, I guess, for my gift and for the opportunities in my life. And after The Voice, it just gradually, with each experience that I've had, I've gained more and more confidence. Like even just compared to, a couple years ago, I feel like I'm a lot more confident in myself and in my vocal abilities today than I was, even a year ago. Yeah, even 6 months ago.
Even when we were doing the Come On to Jesus video, right?
Yeah, because now looking back, I'm like, I did that.
You totally did that.
Because I was really nervous in the moment. Like I was like, am I qualified for this? I've never done acting. And now looking back, I'm proud of myself. I did it. I pushed myself out of my comfort zone, and I did something that was harder for you. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting because you said something I want to kind of touch on a little bit. You found your purpose. You knew it was music. And the moment you found your purpose and you focused on your purpose, you started to love yourself more. I think that's so profound. That is a powerful lesson because, we have those cliches of like, oh, you just gotta love yourself more. You just gotta have more confidence. That's how you're gonna make it through life, right?
Right.
But
everybody hears it.
Everyone hears that, right? But how do you do that? And there's so many different ways to kind of go about doing certain things. I remember for myself, like when I discovered, okay, acting is my purpose, it struck every chord of my being. Like when I knew I was going to do that, it felt so good, which was so weird to say because I was so shy growing up, so shy. Like if you looked at pictures of me as a kid, like I was always the one standing in the corner, like trying to face the corner, like just trying to like be away from everything. It was just the worst.
We would have been good friends.
We would have been really good friends. I remember I ran into a buddy of mine who I guess we were friends, or we were in the same 6th grade class. And he saw me. He's like, wait, Sharon? And I'm like, yeah, man, how you doing? He's like, dude, like you're so confident now. Like what happened? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I was so shy back then. But I love what you just said about like having focus on your purpose and finding that voice. Like literally for you, it's a voice, but like finding that voice within yourself and going for it, immediately your soul comes alive and you can't help but love yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
What advice would you give to people that have no idea how to find their purpose?
That's a great question. I would say, first off, I think people tend to have a very limiting like mindset with themselves. And so I feel like sometimes people do know what they want to do, or they'll have like an idea pop in their head and they're like, oh, but no, I could never do that.
The woulda, shoulda, coulda, or the narratives that they tell themselves to like not even get close to it, right?
Yeah, totally. Exactly. Yeah. I once had that mindset. And so all that's going to do is keep you from doing it. And so in my mind, it's like, if there's something that you're interested in doing or trying, a hobby that you feel passionate about, everybody has something that they're drawn to or excited about. And I think there's a lot of people out there that are not working their dream job. They're just 100%. Working to make money because we need to make money. But I think there's a lot of people out there, specifically that I've talked to and that I know, that want to be doing something else. And I would say just don't limit yourself, like reach for the stars, have the kind of mindset where, you can do anything. I mean, I'm I'm a huge believer in like manifesting and just having positive, like saying positive things to yourself, putting positivity out there and positivity coming back to you.
Yeah.
And I recently heard this tip from a guy who's a super successful business guy. And he calls it his mind palace. And every day, the first thing he does when he wakes up, he doesn't go get on his phone first, nothing. He just like stays in his own head and his own thoughts. And he talked about how our minds don't know the difference between the past, present, and future.
Right.
And so he said he literally will repeat things in his head like, I already have this. Mm-hmm. I already am doing this. You know, I already have this dream job. Like I'm already doing all of these things. And then, you know, that positive mindset really does a lot. So I would say just changing your mindset is huge for finding your purpose, not limiting yourself to what's safe, to what's comfortable. Don't live in your comfort zone.
Yes.
Trust me, guys.
Well, you know, it's so crazy. I remember a couple of years ago, I was like during Christmas holidays, I went to Target and I saw one of the saddest things. It was people that just looked dead inside. Their eyes just showed me like they were not alive. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I would never want to live life where I felt dead inside, you know? And it's very interesting because I've seen people that have made a ton of money and they've done like really good, successful things from the eyes of the world.
Right.
But yet they seem so miserable and so unhappy because all along they knew they weren't living their soul's like true purpose.
Right.
They weren't completely happy. And I love how you were saying, hey, you can manifest these things in your life. You can create your own path. And you should. You don't have to like absolutely follow what someone else said or did. It's like, cool, you can like learn certain things from them and then go and create. When I was in LA, I was booking all these cool TV shows and all this stuff, yada, yada, yada. And I didn't feel fulfilled, even though I was living, quote unquote, my dream. Right. And then I realized, wait a minute, no, my dream is to actually create the shows I can be on. And just saying that made me way more excited than like going to these auditions. So I'm like, all right, that's it. I'm going to go and create.
You just knew. Yeah.
I just knew. And I guess I had lived enough experiences to know, okay, when these type of feelings happen, I have to just go and do it. I can't like just think in my head, maybe this or maybe that. It's like what you're saying, just go and do it.
Right.
Don't worry about what's going to happen. Just go and do it and it will just unfold in front of you.
Right.
So,
and just adding to that too, like, don't allow fear to stop you.
Yeah.
Because I truly, the way that I look at fear and define fear is it's like fear is a very real feeling. It's a very real thing, but fear itself and the things that you're afraid of are not real. They're like these like things that have not happened yet.
Sure.
That you're creating in your head. What if this happens? But what if this happens? It's like, you know, if you live your life in fear, you're not going to live.
Absolutely.
Basically.
Absolutely. And it is. You're absolutely right. It's like you're creating this scenario in your head that doesn't even exist. And then you start reacting off of it.
Yep.
And you're like, well, that was a lot of energy spent in non-reality, you know?
Right. And I feel like sometimes if you're living in a place of fear and like negative thoughts, that can sometimes actually come back to you.
Absolutely.
I've seen that in my life. I've literally had performances that I went into fearing that I'd forget the lyrics. And guess what happened? I forgot the lyrics.
Yeah.
Every single time I am afraid of forgetting the lyrics and I focus on it before I get on stage. I forget the lyrics every single time. Seriously.
Yeah.
So I like now my strategy is I will literally think of anything but the words.
But the words, that's amazing.
Because I'm just trusting myself and the rehearsal time that it's there. So don't live in fear.
That it's so true, right? Because the moment you do, you're like more into your thoughts, you're not being present.
Right.
And then things just kind of like break down right then and there.
Yep.
Right. It's funny. I used to teach snowboarding and I love snowboarding. And I went yesterday and there was this moment where I was snowboarding down like these runs and it was kind of steep runs that I stopped. I'm like, wait, okay, how do I do this, right? And I do that. And then I stopped myself. I'm like, wait a minute. Why am I thinking about how to snowboard? I know how to do this. Like I've done this for years. And the moment I did that and I started laughing about it, I went for it and it just everything just worked. Like everything just worked. I didn't have to like think about it. It became effortless.
Right.
Except it did cause a lot of effort and my legs were burning. But the point is like the actual like knowledge of how to do it was just fine.
It was
right?
there. Yeah.
So that's how I feel like our actions in life should be anyway.
Yeah.
Letting go of the fear, letting go of those narratives,
right.
and then just going and doing and being present, which is awesome.
Trust your gut.
Trust your gut. So now you're writing a bunch of singles, right? You're creating your own songs and stuff. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I, a couple years ago, in 2019, which that's weird to say, time flies so fast, but my parents, they got a divorce, and it was around that time when, I kind of stopped songwriting, and I was going through a really, really tough time with that. You know, my parents were together my whole life. And so I think there's different challenges with your parents going through a divorce when you're a kid versus when you're an adult.
Absolutely.
Completely different. And I think some of the hardest parts of being an adult and going through that is you have a greater understanding of everything.
Yeah.
It's like really real. Like you just, instead of blaming yourself and questioning if it's you, you know kind of like what happened. And I feel like that's really hard in a completely different way. So anyways, that was really challenging. And I wanted to write songs that were inspired by the feelings and the things that I was going through with that. But the emotions were still so raw for so long. So finally, later in 2019, I ended up meeting up with a couple people that I am very close with, some songwriters, and we wrote this song. It's called Enough. It's not released yet, but it's about the divorce, basically. And that was like the first song that led to all the other ones. It was like this snowball. So after that song, I basically just kept writing nonstop, off and on, ever since 2019. And especially since the pandemic and everything, later in 2020, I went over to LA. I wrote with some writers over there. I did a lot of like Zoom writing sessions, which actually go surprisingly well.
Yeah.
And I wrote a ton of songs. And so now I'm just in the process of releasing those.
That's
and
amazing.
they're about tons of things I've experienced, from the divorce to, different people in my life and different experiences. I am very inspired by relationships and the ins and outs of those, whether they're my own or other people's. So yeah, a lot of the songs, they're very real. Yeah. They are very real. I'm more real in my songs now than I've ever been. So
well, I really appreciate that. And I remember 2019 was when we did that music video, right? And so the divorce was still pretty fresh. It was still pretty new when we were doing that.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I remember like we were talking a little bit about this because my parents went through a divorce, and I think I was telling you about that one. But I was a kid when my parents went through a divorce,
right? So
it was more of the what did I do wrong type of thing, right?
Yeah.
But I remember because you had done a bunch of releases, a bunch of covers, and then you said you were feeling really inspired to create your own stuff.
I remember that.
Remember that? And then we were sitting in my car once, like it was outside of our office, and you were like showing me like some tracks that you'd done. And my mind was just blown. I was like, what? Like, when is this coming out and blessing the world, And it was like really powerful stuff, especially because it really came from your soul. Like it absolutely came from your soul. And it was like so many things that it was hard to just speak about. You could sing about, and it was like from like pure raw emotion, right?
Totally.
And I think that's what makes it so powerful and so something that people can like really attach themselves to and relate themselves to,
right? Which
is awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So every month you said you're going to release a single. Is that right?
One single every month. The beginning of every month.
That's fantastic.
So far I've released 2. I have another one coming out tomorrow.
Oh my gosh.
Very excited.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I'm excited that you're doing that. So what does the future look like for you? Like what's the plans?
Ooh, right now I have plans and goals. And I have, a whole strategy laid out with my manager and all that. I'm independent. I'm not with a label right now. The goal eventually is to get to sign with a label. But it's really nice being independent and making my own decisions.
Yeah.
And it's very freeing, honestly. So, and I'm learning a lot through this process as well, not being with a label. So, I guess the goal is just to, you know, I don't do music, you know, to be famous or necessarily like to be popular or anything like that. I've literally never desired that. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if I'd want to be, you know, super famous. Yeah. I don't know that I'd even want that.
Yeah.
I truly do music because I know that I want to inspire people and I want to help people with my music. And I know that I want to be an example of somebody who can have music that's meaningful and real and relatable. Mm-hmm. And I don't have to sacrifice any of my personal standards or values for that. And I can still be successful and I can still reach a lot of people.
Yeah.
And just make people feel better after they listen to my songs than they felt before.
Oh,
that's my ultimate goal. So that is why I do music. I do it for the people. I have had so many experiences so far in my career that I am so blessed to have had, where I just meet people and talk to people who, like I've literally had people tell me that one of my songs saved their life.
Oh my gosh.
And that they were thinking of committing suicide before they heard my song.
Wow.
And, like, these are things that I still to this day can't even really wrap my head around, that I had a hand in maybe saving somebody or helping somebody through sharing experiences that I go through.
Yeah.
So that is why I do what I do. And the goal is just to reach as many people as I can. So the strategy is just release a single every month, and hopefully every single it'll bring more and more traction. And I'm hoping to just branch out more into the world and be discovered by more and more people.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the goal. Just see what happens, basically.
It's a beautiful goal. It's amazing.
Thank you.
I love that you're doing that. So I want to shift topics a little bit. Every creator, every entrepreneur, everyone that has a passion or dream, every person in life really has faced lemons in their life, right? Some pretty heavy blows,
right?
When they're like, I did not see that coming. And this one is going to knock me off my feet for a little bit. Has there anything come to your mind that's like, yeah, that was a lemon for me, and how do I turn it into lemonade? Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
What comes to your mind?
I think the most recent thing would definitely be my parents' divorce.
Yeah.
When that happened, it really shook me up. It changed my perspective on dating and marriage. Mm-hmm. I have a lot of fears with marriage and just reservations that I didn't have before. And in some ways I think that's a good thing, but it's definitely just, it's been a big challenge in my life in a lot of ways. My life has changed a lot, my family life.
Yeah.
And when that first happened, I was very much in that mindset of, why my family? Why did this happen to my family? And I was having more that outlook on it. Like, this feels unfair. Mm-hmm. And I've had several moments where I ask those questions. Even now, sometimes when I'm really struggling or I'm having like a sad day, I'll think those things. But I would say I've been able to make lemonade out of those lemons through my music. Mm-hmm. Because I've written several songs now that would not have come to life if it weren't for
those tragic things.
If it weren't for that, if it weren't for the emotions that I felt and the feelings that I felt. And those songs have already been able to touch a lot of people. And that's been really, really cool to see. So
that's awesome.
Everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely.
It really, really does. So I would say that's That's the thing that comes to my mind.
That comes to your mind. No, that's amazing. And I'm so glad that you've been able to make lemonade out of that. You know, it's a tough situation. And you told me more in depth of like what the situation was and everything. Do you feel like you were able to have good relationships with your mom and dad still?
Yes. I feel very blessed. The first year or so was pretty rough.
Yeah.
You know, my parents, it was a little bit more, you know, there was more tension there. And I feel like when that tension kind of subsides, that's when the healing can really take place. And I love my parents, both of them. My mom, she has been such a rock and so strong. She is like the strongest person I know, literally.
Yeah.
And she could have been bitter because of certain things that happened with my dad, but she chose not to be bitter. And she chose to make lemonade out of lemons. Right out of the gate, she went back to school. She got a job, did what she needed to do. And she has always, she's always like encouraged us to have a relationship with both her and my dad as well. Like there's never been any, like ultimatums
vicious.
Because I've heard horror stories.
Yeah, there are.
And there's a lot out there.
Yeah.
And so for that reason, I just feel very grateful. My parents get along. We can all be together just fine. It's not awkward.
Yeah.
I mean, there are sometimes awkward moments, but
I mean, it's divorce,
it's unavoidable. Yeah. So,
absolutely.
But for the most part, honestly, like it's
pretty awesome.
As good as it can be.
Yeah.
Especially based off of like hearing about other people's experiences.
Yeah.
So I am very close with both my parents and I feel very lucky for that.
That's amazing. You know, I same here. Like I've got very great relationships with everyone in my family and it's all very normal now. It just seems like this is the most
right. Time heals.
And
it becomes the new normal.
Yeah. Absolutely.
As much as I kind of hate that word, like the new normal, but it really is. Yeah. Life is what it is and things happen. You can't control your circumstances.
Yeah.
But you can control your happiness and how you move on and how you take it and the lemonade that you make.
The lemonade that you make, right? So speaking of controlling your happiness, what makes you happy?
Oh, what makes me happy? That's a great question. You know, there are things in my life that make me happy. Mm-hmm. My faith makes me happy. My family makes me happy. My music makes me happy. I would say those things are, the main things.
The main things, yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think it's really important. I've been learning this recently. It's really important not to place your happiness on things because those things can change or shift.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I have realized that and I've really been learning this recently, even if I'm having a bad day, even if you're having a bad day, you can still choose to be happy.
Yeah.
So I would say my happiness comes from myself. I
love that. That's the best.
I choose to be happy.
You choose to be happy, right? And I think that's a great way to put it. For me, I say my happiness comes as a direct result of my relationship with my Father in heaven, right? To me, that's what makes me happy, and I love that relationship and that feeling of goodness and joy inside. And you're right. It's like, I'm not placing my happiness on anything outside of me, like in the world, because those things do shift and those things do change.
Yeah.
And if you attach yourself to something that's going to change or that may change or whatever, then you'll be unhappy.
Right.
You have no idea how things will evolve.
Right.
So yeah, I love that you just said that. Okay. Last two questions. Okay. And they kind of actually tie with each other. What has been your greatest fear?
Man, that's a good question. Trying to think. I mean, I'll just say this is the funny answer. Funny and serious answer. Funny as spiders. Okay. I'm always afraid of spiders.
Oh my gosh. It's terrible.
I hate spiders.
There's nothing funny about that ever, you know?
Much.
Yeah.
So that's never going to change. There's the funny answer, and then the real fear.
Can I add to that funny answer?
Yeah, go for it.
I was watching Spider-Man, right?
See, the ironic thing is I love Spider-Man.
I love Spider-Man.
Yes.
I love Spider-Man. And he got bit by a radioactive spider, right? And he turned into Spider-Man.
Right.
So I was like, man, what would that be like? Well, I'm so grateful that a loving God answered a prayer I didn't even know I uttered, because the following day I woke up with a spider bite on my neck, actually. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah.
You're kidding.
Turns out it just itched. Like I didn't have any special powers, but at least I knew what that was like. I was like, all right, that's what that was like. So it was great.
Well,
yeah, there you go. Anyway,
that's a bummer.
It was a bummer. It was a bummer. I mean, I got the bite, but no effects from it.
Right.
You know?
Man, you got gypped. It was the wrong spider.
It was the wrong spider. Yeah. I'm like, no, I'm sorry. I meant radioactive spider. I didn't mean just any spider, you know? Anyway, serious answer. Let's go.
Serious answer. It's like probably a lot of people can relate to it, but I would say it's getting divorced.
Yeah.
And, that's just like probably the main, like that comes to my mind first.
Yeah.
Because my parents got divorced. And so I think probably at least most people that I've talked to, I don't know if you feel the same way, that their parents got divorced, they tend to have that fear. So yeah, I would say just because I am at that dating phase and like marriage phase of my life. So that's a fear I have.
Yeah. You know, I actually don't have that fear because I just don't date. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. No, I know exactly what you mean. And it's kind of terrifying. Right. And there was this psychologist that explained this thing to me. He said, let's say that you are a knight, you're going into war, you know, and you're like a knight and you're wearing all this armor and stuff and you're just trying to protect yourself. Well, let's say that now you have to go swim. How can you swim without all that armor? You're going to sink. You're going to fall. You're never going to be able to like actually get it to the other side. Right. So he said, sometimes you have to let the armor down. You got to take it off. And only then can you experience, all the good things, right? So it's like you can't experience love without accepting that, hey, this could mean a result that I might not want at all, right? Or it could be, wow, this is amazing and let's keep going and yada, 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 right?
Right.
So it was a very interesting way I like that a lot. Me, you know?
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Because sometimes we are so afraid and we're holding on to these things and this armor all around us to protect ourselves, so much so that we are also protecting ourselves from love, you know, and that's sometimes something that we have to like look at for ourselves and see, hey, can we figure out a way to like let some of this stuff go so that we can allow love to come in,
right?
You know, I think it's powerful.
Man, yeah, I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Please, it was the psychologist.
No, that's amazing. No, that's amazing.
So the last thing I was going to say is, you know, based off of these things that we just talked about, you know, fears and happiness and all that stuff. What advice would you give the young Madilyn Paige, the one that is barely getting into singing, the one that realizes, oh my gosh, this is going to be my life? What advice would you give her?
Such a good question. I think there's like a lot of things I don't want to tell myself. I think one thing that I would tell myself is like take things more seriously. Okay. Meaning this is how I'll like explain that is I was born with a God-given talent. And for that, I'm so grateful. And so singing has always been pretty easy for me just because I was born with that gift. But because of that, I think there's been a lot of times in my life where I've like not been lazy with it, but just almost like sat back and been a little casual. Like, I don't really have to practice that much. Like, because I know my voice is just going to carry me through. But there's been a lot of times in my life where I've procrastinated, and I've done things like events and stuff where I feel like I could have done a lot better of a job had I prepared and not just like sat back and been like, oh, my talent will carry me through. Yeah. So I think that's like the biggest thing that comes to my mind is just because you have this talent doesn't mean you can just not work for it and not practice and take things seriously and sit back and relax, you know? Yeah. So I would say that is probably the biggest thing. And then the other thing is just don't compare yourself to other people. And that's something I think I'm going to tell myself the rest of my life, remind myself of. Comparison, I think with social media and just like lately I've been comparing myself to like other singers and like their career, how their career is going. And comparison is the thief of joy. It just is. And it stops you from progressing. We're not on this earth to be like other people. We're on this earth to be ourselves and to reach our full potential, not somebody else's. And as long as you're trying to be somebody else or live up to somebody else's life and their mission, you're never going to reach your own potential. So I would say that's another thing that I would tell myself. Don't compare yourself, Madeline.
Don't compare yourself. I love that. That's so great. That's awesome. Because I find myself still comparing myself to other people.
It's hard.
Things. It's hard, right?
It's really hard.
And it's you wonder why you do that, but you kind of...
It's because everyone's so different.
Everyone's so different, right?
If everybody was the same, it would, I don't know, like I don't think it would be such a challenge, but it's apples and oranges. Yeah. It's easy to compare yourself to an orange when you're an apple. It's like, well, but they're orange. Maybe that's cooler. Yeah. Maybe that's prettier. Maybe that's more successful. Yeah. You know, I'm just an apple. So I don't know.
And it's interesting because like a little side tangent here. Like, so another thing I love to do is play tennis. I love to play tennis. But I find myself watching these YouTube videos of these tennis players. I'm like, oh my gosh, I like that person's swing. I want to do it just like that. And I keep trying to do it that way. And I sometimes I hear like this voice and I feel like it's like the voice of the Lord. And he's like, how do you want to do it though? What is your version of this? What does your version of it look like?
I like that.
And it's kind of like being authentic to yourself is the key. And it's absolutely. And it's like, hey, are you having fun? Are you having fun? Right. And if you're having fun, then who cares what other people do? Right. So, I love that. And I think that's a great way to end this podcast. But yeah, Madilyn, seriously, thank you so much. Yeah. You're so awesome. And like,
thank you for having me.
Are you kidding me? Like, you have blessed my ears and now this podcast has been blessed. It's amazing. It's just a blessing.
You're sweet. You're awesome. Very sweet. Thank you.
Any final words before we wrap up?
Just look out for my new music, you guys.
Yes.
Look out for it. Lots coming like this year. I mean, I guess it's like 12 tracks, one a month. So
awesome. So how do they find you?
All streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and then of course social media, Instagram, Facebook.
Awesome. And they just find
Madilyn
you.
Paige.
Madilyn Paige.
Madilyn Paige _ on Instagram. Yeah.
I love it. Yep. I love it. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Madilyn, and have a great day.
You too.
Thanks so much for listening to the Lemonade Stand podcast, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you use to be alerted when we release new episodes. We'd also love to hear your feedback in the reviews, and if you or someone you know has an awesome Lemonade Stand story, please reach out to us on social media and let us know. Thanks so much, and have a great day.